Cathedral City Planning Commission. I think this will be the last meeting of the year, so this is very nice. May I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Thompson,
Present.
Commissioner Lee,
Present.
Commissioner Lowe,
Present.
Vice Chair Malakoff,
Present.
Chair Daly.
Actually present.
Let the record show that all planning commissioners are present.
Thank you. I'd like to invite everyone on the dais and in the audience to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May I have a confirmation of the agenda, please?
There are no changes to the agenda.
Okay, moving on. We'll move on to item 1, approval of the minutes. I wasn't present, so I'm going to...
I'll move.
Okay, getting ahead of me there, but yes, go ahead. I have do I have a second?
Oh, yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
I didn't make it.
Somebody, there we go. Abstaining? No? Okay.
Let the record show that a motion was made by Commissioner Lee, a second by Commissioner Thompson, with Chair Daly abstaining, and passes 4-0.
Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda, public comments. The public is invited to address the Planning Commission on any matter not on the agenda. If you wish to speak on an agenda item, please wait to be recognized under that item. Except for special circumstances, the Brown Act prohibits the Planning Commission or staff from responding or taking action on any comments made by the public unless it pertains to an item that appears on the agenda. All speakers should give their name and city of residence, and please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Do we have anyone who would like to address the Commission on a matter not on the agenda? No speaker slips?
No speaker slips.
Okay. At this time, we will close public comments and move on to public hearing item 3A, conditional use permit number 22-004.
Okay. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Manuel Rocha. I'm Assistant Planner here with the City of Cathedral City. Today I bring before you an application for a conditional use permit number 22004 for a wireless telecommunication facility by the applicant Will Kazemi on behalf of AT&T Wireless. The proposed project is located at 30010 Date Palm Drive within the property of the North Gate Community Church. The property is zoned single-family residential with the general plan designation of low-density residential. The parcels adjacent to the north and south of the proposed facility are vacant land. The parcel to the east of the proposed facility are single-family dwellings, and the parcel to the west across Date Palm Drive is commercial, which is currently the existing Walgreens and grocery outlet. The photos you see here are a view of the location of the proposed wireless telecommunication facility. The proposed facility will be located in the planter area shown here. The proposed facility includes ground equipment with an enclosure along with the telecommunications tower and surrounding landscaping. The ground equipment will include an AC generator along with other ground-mounted equipment. The equipment will be completely enclosed and screened from view. Here you will see the proposed antenna structure. The applicant is proposing a 50-foot structure. Meanwhile, to the east of the antenna, there will be an enclosure with a trellis cover that will match existing trash enclosure on the site. The antenna tower will consist of 3 panels painted in a faint coral color scheme. The ARC did review and agree on the color scheme and tower design. The applicant is proposing to add landscaping around the facility, which will include trees and shrubs, along with desert gold. A condition was included to prohibit any signage on the structure. This photo shows what the view of the facility would be from Date Palm Drive. So staff recommends that Planning Commission finds the project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to section number 15303, class 3, and approve conditional use permit number 22004, subject to the attached conditions of approval and based on the findings contained in the staff report. And that concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
Thank you so much. Let me just start by apologizing. We weren't trying to be rude. We're just having some technical difficulties up here. It's not you, it's us. Are there any questions for staff? Please.
First off, welcome to the staff. This is the first time we've seen you in front of the panel, so welcome. Why this tower has got a different shape, outline, look to it. Why not the standard camouflage palm tree appearance?
So the applicant and the church did meet, and this is the design that they agreed with. They wanted to do something a little bit different than the typical monopalm.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Do you have a question? I have a question. That raises one for me. So I take it then that because this is on private property, the church's property, and they communicated with AT&T Wireless and they came up with that design scheme, we don't have any sort of design authority over that decision?
So if I may, it was reviewed by ARC, so this conditional use permit is processed in the same manner as all monopalms, all other CUPs, which includes an ARC review. So this, we presented the proposal and it was approved at ARC.
Okay.
Yeah, so to clarify, there is a design authority.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
So the point is that we do have design authority over how it looks.
Yes.
It's not, because we regulate CUPs on private property all the time.
Yes.
So I have a comment.
Yeah.
I think in this case, the church's structure is a very modern design, and I think this kind of takes off on that design itself. I mean, my initial reaction was, yeah, this is odd, it's different. I have to be honest, the monopalms.
Commissioner Lowe,
Well,
could you speak into the microphone,
Sorry.
please? Thank you.
but I'm just kind of, observing that at that particular site, this might be an appropriate style for the structure itself because of the other building.
Could you
that's there.
could you go back to the image that you put up of like the elevation where it was sort of superimposed on the view?
This one?
No, it looked like it was a yeah,
This one?
that
Okay.
one. Thank you. I mean, I don't know. I don't mean to make a big deal out of this. It's sort of a mystery to me how we ended up with that. Yes.
I have a lot of questions for the applicant when they come up, in that there's lots of options and how they could match architecturally with the building and do a lot better for the community. So when they come up, I have many questions.
It's a good point. Any other questions for staff? No? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone in the audience who would like to address the commission on item 3A? Perhaps the applicant. Not really. Unless that's a requirement.
Good evening. Thank you, Manuel, for your presentation. My name is Chris Doheny. I'm standing in for Will Kazemi, who is listed as the applicant. I work with SmartLink Group, and we have a brief presentation to provide. I can answer questions now or wait till after I go through the slides. What would you?
You have slides?
Yes. Again, it may address some of the questions.
Okay.
Okay, just to kind of walk through here. Myself, again, I'm Chris Doheny. I work with SmartLink Group. We work on behalf of AT&T in presenting the project and answering questions and issues by the commission. We're a trusted global partner to the nation's leading wireless carriers, tower companies, and turnkey providers. So we service both Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. This is a brief slide presentation. It'll help clarify how we got here to the proposed location. So basically, this is kind of the facility proposal that we're giving. Is the purpose and design of the facility is to improve cellular service in the area that has a significant gap in service coverage. The church property is a perfect location for a faux tower design to blend with the existing architecture and color. This is a summary of the project that we're presenting. 50-foot tall tower structure, 12 panel antennas, 1 GPS antenna, 20 kilowatt diesel generator, a walk-up cabinet, and the supporting equipment is the radio units, surge suppressors, and total square footage that we're using is 948 square feet. Just to address the structure itself, the 50-foot tall tower structure, we did start out presenting a 60-foot tall tower structure. Feedback from the city, also discussing different designs. We ended up reducing the size to a total height of 50 feet. Also, we originally presented a larger square structure. We ended up going where the original antenna array was 4 sectors, so causing the structure itself to be quite wide. We ended up modifying it so the antennas were, one array was above and then another array below, allowing us to reduce the size or square footage of the structure itself. So that helped reduce the total impact and the visual impact. This is just a kind of overview presentation of where the facility sits on the property. We were able to kind of eliminate it or remove it from the main parcel to the outskirts of the parking lot. If you can see, let me see, this area here is where the facility is being proposed with the landscaping around the facility. Next slide. This is an overview of the area that we'll be providing service to, and basically the area where what we call is the gap in coverage area that's not being serviced right now. To get to the place where we're at now, we have to kind of overcome some obstacles, what we call 5 ABLEs. Structure will have to be zonable, have to be leasable, we have to have a willing landlord, has to be RF engineerable, meaning it has to meet the requirements and demands of the RF engineers. They have specific needs in establishing how they're going to fill and service the gap in coverage. Has to be constructible. We have to have power and telco access somewhere, having a meet-me point to fill that service, and it has to be regulatorable, meaning that it meets all requirements of regulatory agencies on a local, state, and federal government level. We need to make sure that we can obtain a negative declaration of CEQA requirements or that an environmental assessment will be approved on the site. So when we go to present to zoning, there's two pillars that we have to demonstrate. One is we have to fill significant gap in coverage. We just don't randomly pick an area to fill in service. AT&T demonstrate that there's lack of service in a certain area, and our commitment is to try to find a property location that can fill that gap. And our goal is to do it in the least visually obtrusive means. I mean, we look at all design options, considerations with the city and and the property owner to find the design that's going to hopefully meet everybody's needs. And to that, talking about the designs that we considered, we did discuss a monopalm. Between the owner preferred not to have a monopalm for design-wise, just appearance-wise, and also another main objection to that was because this area was kind of determined to be a high wind channel, so we felt that the wear and tear on a monopalm on the tree itself would not benefit long-term. So we decided to go with a tower structure that we could design, hopefully, to blend as much as possible with the church structure, both in texture and in color. And we did provide material samples to planning that they were able to review and did provide to the ARC committee for their review as well. So while we're trying to find an appropriate location, we went through original search ring, trying to find a viable landlord and a viable location that worked for both, AT&T and RF and the property owners. We weren't able to find any properties within our original search. So what we had AT&T does at that point is we expand our search ring and look for other viable property owners. Because this ring has quite a large residential zone properties, and there weren't very little suitable sites that demonstrate compliance with the zoning code. So we have to find something that's going to work for, meet everybody's needs and within the zoning guidelines. So again, original search ring was expanded for more opportunities. Again, this next slide shows the search ring zoning, and you can see along Date Palm Drive there, mostly residential surrounding community with commercial lots north and south along Date Palm Drive. We did approach all of these potential candidates, and because of the very limited space on the properties, the candidates were not viable in order to move forward. And again, this is a kind of an overview of candidates that we had discussions with, researched whether they were going to be viable or not, and they turned out not to be. We were only able to go so far to the south because we do have another site in this direction, so we can't, because of the way the search rings are designed, they can't overlap each other. We want to try to make sure there's enough distance between different facilities. This is one of it's what we call our propagation maps, and this demonstrates the area that we're trying to fill, the gap in service. And it's not shown very well on your slide there, but the green is where there existing coverage, and in between there, on my slide here, it's purple, which is a lack of service. So this first slide is a snapshot of the area showing the existing site without LTE coverage in the AT&T network. And this demonstrates the new coverage in service with the new reference site, assuming all the existing neighboring sites of the target site and the reference site is also approved and on the air. The propagation is displayed with the plan legends provided. So some of the benefits of the project overall is improved cellular service in the area. Again, filling that significant gap. Is there a way to go back there? Previous, yeah, let's go. And then minimal site disturbance. All existing trees, vegetation are going to remain in place. Agreeable leasing terms with the property owner. Additional trees planted to improve screening and blend with the environment. Again, these are some more visual renderings that one was already provided. This is a view northeast from Date Palm Drive, southwest from the parking lot entrance, southeast from site lot, and then the required federal government approvals that are required. We provide a RF EME report showing compliance with the emissions. And again, that pretty much summarizes the presentation. Can answer questions further now.
Thank you. I think there are some questions. Would you like to start?
Thank you. Yes.
Please.
So the technology's been constantly upgraded over the past 30 years since these started going up. Mm-hmm. You know, they went from the naked towers to, and that's what they called them, to more intricate designs of stealth facilities so that it could screen things a little bit better. Mm-hmm. I've seen things with a pine tree, a palm tree. I've seen oak trees, clock towers, water towers. I've seen a totem pole. I've seen an obelisk. This looks like a fire rappelling tower, you know, a training tower for the fire department to learn how to rappel down buildings. Did you consider any of these? Not the fire rappelling tower, but the others? Did you consider any of those designs, which would have been much more stealth and would have fit into the community a lot better than this? Well, the tree designs that we're able to consider, for example, a monopine, a monoeucalyptus type tree, we didn't feel blended with this environment. The closest thing, I think, clearly is either the monopalm, which was considered, but again, the landlord did not want to go with the monopalm, and also the wear and tear on the monopalm with this specific area, feeling like it was. We learned that it was a high wind area, and so that was not an option. I'm sorry? What about a light fixture or an oak tree or a pine tree or anything else that would have
I felt like a pine tree, a euc tree would stand out too much different from the existing environment. A light pole would not be able to provide the service, the antenna array that's required to fill the gap in service. We're proposing 12 panel antennas where a light array generally only support a flush mount type of structure, meaning possibly 3 antennas, service a much smaller area. Therefore, more closer range service. And any structure closer to the church, or part of the church itself, did not want to consider that.
Well, tell me, you said that it blends into the area. Tell me, how does it blend into the area?
Just trying to keep it simple as possible as far as the color and texture. Again, trying to match the church itself, but because it is a desert environment, we try to just kind of keep it simple.
Well, from what I know, there's so many options today that could have been explored beyond what we're talking about. I've seen these towers combined with art. I've seen them do all sorts of different things. I've seen them on the second story of they added a story to a building on one of them. It's That one's right here in town. So there's lots of options other than having something such as this. I'm just really disappointed in the kind of design. This is something that we would have seen many, many years ago before the technology allowed much more intricate stealth designs. So, so this is, I appreciate you answering the questions. We'll have more discussion during commissioner discussion.
So, my understanding is, based on your presentation, you met with the officials of Northgate Church, and this was what they chose.
Yes.
They chose this particular example of a tower as the thing that would motivate them to enter into the lease with you.
Yes, because we were not able to go with the tree. We weren't able to attach anything to the existing church building as it is, so we had to propose a independent type tower. And again, we try to occupy as least amount of space as we can, so that's why we reduced the overall height of the proposal and also the diameter of the facility.
And then, isn't it also true that there's a substantial revenue stream that accrues to the church from leasing this land for the purpose of having this tower?
Well, defining it substantial, I mean, we have to pay for our space and accommodate the property owner with a fair market rent. So that's what we do.
But I mean, there is an economic benefit to the church because they own the property and they're the landlord under this lease.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think my thoughts go to what's been said before, really. But this kind of structure would probably have looked quite good if it had been attached to the church. It could easily be a bell tower or something church-like. But being so far removed from the other buildings, it's rather stark and draws attention to itself, which is the exact opposite of what we're trying to do, which is to blend it into the environment. I'm not quite sure that I understand the argument about wind for the monopalm, because we have a lot of monopalms in the city, and sure, they lose fronds or whatever they call them, leaves. I don't know. And those have to be put back up, but that's a minor fix. It's not like the pole itself is damaged by the wind. I'm not sure about this structure being bigger, whether it would be better in the wind or worse. What's your opinion of effect on the panels on this? Are they going to be damaged by the wind?
The antennas themselves?
No, the panels surrounding it. The whatever lattice or whatever you've got actually on the front of that, because it's enclosed. It's fully enclosed. Right. Yes.
No, they won't be damaged. They're screened, one from the FRP, the structure itself, and if I'm addressing your question correctly, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I just, if wind is a concern for a monopalm, which is essentially, it's just a circular, it's a cylinder, which is perfect for wind. Yeah. And now we have an oblong structure that is going to pose a barrier to the wind. I just don't see how that's a better solution.
It's the one that was preferred by the property owner. The monopalm was proposed, but...
Right. So I think that's really what we're down to, is the church's decision. They didn't want anything else. They wanted this.
I mean, we did understand if it's determined it's a high wind area, the damage to the fronds themselves could be, generally they last several years. But if they felt that this area was a high wind, the ARC did seem to agree with that idea. This area being high wind channel, that the fronds would be damaged too often to maintain.
Okay. And what is the relative height between the church building itself and the tower?
The tower being proposed at 50 foot, and the church is approximately 30 feet.
Thank you.
Commissioner Thompson? I do have a follow-up question. So I completely agree with Commissioner Lee about the structure. Actually would probably look fine if it was next to the church. And you showed an image, the second image you showed, I could see what you're getting at, that it sort of shares a geometric similarity to the church. But it's so far away from the church that it just looks like it's standing alone by itself. At 50 feet will be the largest item anywhere near it, probably for the rest of time. Mm-hmm. So is there any chance that this thing could get moved closer to the church such that it's either attached to it or there is some continuity in design, or it has to be where it is?
We could discuss, that would be up to the owner to accept something close to the church. That's not what they've been receptive to. Feeling like, again, we're limited space between the area around the church itself and the parking lot. With limited space there, but I can try to.
Let me ask you this. On behalf of the applicant, does the applicant care if it were closer to the church?
Our main objective is to get the radio frequency azimuths that we require. The closer we are to the church, the more potential for blockage because of the signal. So that's, again, part of the reason avoiding, close distance to the church. The further away we are from it, the array has less interference.
So I take it this is not the first tower that you've been involved with creating. Okay. In terms of, well, let me ask a follow-up question. Have you been involved in the building of any towers here in Cathedral City before?
Not towers, monopalm.
Okay, fine. I'll take monopalm. Yes. All right. How tall is your standard monopalm?
You can't really standard it. I mean, it goes by the city guidelines, anywhere from 50 feet to 75 feet being probably the tallest I've seen. But generally, they're about 60 to 65 feet. We've done Palm Desert area. I've done a couple over there, about 60 feet.
Okay. So this 50-foot structure, in terms of cell towers, that's actually on the smaller side, generally.
Yes, it's on the lower height side. Generally, we're 60 feet and above.
Okay. All right. Any additional questions? Yes, please.
When you build roads or bridges, depending on where you are, they have to be reinforced differently. Like if you're going to have light traffic on a bridge, then you don't need as much rebar. And the pavement can be different. If you're going to build up in Eureka, it has to be built so that it can deal with the rain. And in the construction industry, there's all sorts of go-arounds for different kinds of climates and different kinds of issues. So, isn't there a standard that you would have? Because Cathedral City isn't the only high wind area. There's cell towers in northern San Bernardino along the Cajon Pass. I've seen them in Ontario along the 15 where it's also high wind. So isn't there a way to strengthen the facility so that it can withstand the winds and you wouldn't have to provide as much maintenance?
Not as proposed as I understand with a palm tree. The high winds are going to have some effect on the support mechanisms of the tree itself. We do studies. Structural analysis is provided when we get to building and safety, and they do studies to measure the wind and how the tree is designed itself. It's going to, whether it's going to support the demand.
Thank you.
Anything else? Any further questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else from the public who would like to speak on this topic? Item.
Yeah, if you could state your name and city of residence at the podium.
Hi, my name is Dalia Lipotello. I live in Cathedral City, right next to where this proposed tower is, and I just wrote down a few things that I want to bring up. First of all, I'm concerned about mine and my family's health. We don't know the long-term effects that such an intensive cell phone radiation would potentially have on us. The non-viable alternative sites for the tower doesn't very well concern me, since there hasn't been a need to have the tower before, and there definitely isn't one now. When it comes down to it, no matter what the design of this tower is, whether it's as these gentlemen have presented, or if it's a palm tree, we don't have the need for a stronger cell phone connection. And lastly, there may not be many of us residents in the community here tonight due to their personal lives, but there are objections to the construction of this tower. First, does the quantity of the objections sway the decision in the tower's construction? And if so, are there any ways to gather our voices in protest against the project?
I can answer that, can't I? No?
So public comment is just to receive the public comments, but we can take notes and then address after
All
we've
right.
received them all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
She's our lawyer, and that's
Yeah.
why. Okay.
No problem, thank you.
And then if you could state your name
Hi,
and city of
good
residence.
evening. My name is Dalia Botello. It's my daughter. We live right there by the tower. I get a little bit nervous, so excuse me. One of my biggest thing is the aesthetics on how it looks. I've lived there for 20 years. And I open my window, we see the mountains, and it's beautiful. And another thing that I'm concerned about is the people that live right behind there. There's not that much distance between the tower and the houses that are all along there. And so that's one of my biggest concerns. And also the property values, if it's going to go down because of something like this. And and one of the biggest thing is the electricity and the radiation that's going to go around. I know you can't answer it, but to me, I'm concerned about it because we don't know a whole lot about that. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name's Julianne Ramirez. I also live on Alexander Drive, right behind the proposed site for this cell tower. And I personally am appalled that this church would make a financial decision like this for their own interests to get money from the cell tower without taking into consideration the hundreds of homes that are around them in every direction. That church may own that property, but they are not an island. They're part of a larger community, and I don't think anybody knows what's going on except the lucky few who got a notification for this hearing. Do we have, what I would like to know is, do we have any say as homeowners in the community to prevent or gather more information about this tower, or are the plans written up and we're going forward and you're just giving us a token opportunity to express our dissatisfaction and it's going to be built anyways? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to be heard on item 3A?
I have no further speaker slips.
Okay, thank you. In that case, I'm going to close public comment. I Can I have the staff back up, though? Is that okay?
Sorry?
Can I have staff back up to ask questions? Yeah.
Sorry.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, I have a question. Does anybody here know what the tallest building in Cathedral City is that isn't a cell tower?
It's probably our
not a cell tower?
The Best Western Hotel.
Sorry, say that again?
The Best Western Hotel, that one's a 3-story building. That's
3
probably-
stories?
Yeah, that's probably.
How tall is that? 3 stories.
I mean, like
Staybridge.
Staybridge as well,
Staybridge,
Staybridge.
Doubletree.
So we think that's about 40 feet at 3
Yeah.
stories?
What about this building?
Oh, this is a tall one. That's true. Okay. Any other questions for staff?
Yeah, I read in the staff report, and I neglected to ask about it, but there is a mention in there about the 300-foot standard which we typically apply. And I just wondered if you could clarify, what is the actual distance in this case? And is that it's not part of an ordinance, it's just a standard that we've adopted on the commission, is that correct?
That is correct.
That was quick. What was... You were very concise, thank you. What is the actual distance? I don't have the...
262 feet.
262?
Yes.
So it's close to that amount, yeah. Close to the regular 300 feet. Okay. And do you know how, and you weren't here probably, but do you know how we arrived at that original 300 foot? Does anybody know the history?
So those were, so our ordinance only says that CUPs are required for all telecommunication facilities, but I believe the staff report stated back in 2010, these were development standards that were set in order to evaluate these projects and provide some sort of direction and standards for staff and for the Planning Commission to review.
It is
Right.
important to note, though, that it is not codified, that is an
Correct.
uncodified
It's
policy.
an informal policy.
From 2010. And in response to the design standards, I think the staff presentation, the applicant presentation have given you some sense of how they arrived at this design. I would emphasize that the code itself is silent, that there's not a lot in there. As part of a CUP, you do have discretion, but the standard that we're referring to in terms of the monopom and what you may have seen on other projects, that actually comes from that uncodified policy from 2010 as well. And that policy simply requires that a cell tower be of a stealth design or a monopom. It's either or, and there's not a lot of specificity, there's not a lot of depth to what is in that uncodified policy. So we don't have much in the way of code. There's nothing in the code, and really we're relying on a 13-year-old uncodified policy.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm going to make a motion, sort of with the explicit understanding here that I want to open up discussion on this. So I'm going to move that we approve an exemption to the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to section number 15303, class number 3, and approve conditional use permit number 22-004, subject to the attached conditions of approval and based on the findings contained in the staff report. And I'd like a second so that we can start discussion.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, so I understand what you're saying. I have a real concern, though, that this sort of looming structure is going to negatively impact that area for the foreseeable future. It's not nothing. We want to encourage development there. We want to, that space around the church is fairly undeveloped. This is a portion of our city that I'd like to see flourish and to have new business move into or new homes or whatever it may be. And I am genuinely concerned that that structure, as it's currently constituted, not the fact that it's a cell tower, but as it currently exists or will exist, is going to negatively impact our ability to later develop that space in any desirable way. That's my concern.
Please. Well, I had another thought on a motion. I'd like to see something else. I think it doesn't meet our standards. It could be prone to graffiti. I don't feel like we can support the findings for a conditional use permit. I don't think it's stealth. I don't think it fits into the neighborhood. I don't think it blends into the neighborhood. I think there's many other options they could do. So and I agree with all the things that you said, but what I'd like to do is, we're limited a little bit by federal law as to what we can do and not do, but the design aspect of it is clearly within our scope. I'm thinking that I would like to continue this to the first meeting in February and have them work with staff on another design and come back with something that's more acceptable, that'll fit into the community, because I just don't believe that the palm fronds are going to be a problem. You have ones next to the freeway that are in windy areas, and they just maintain them all the time. They get calls, they go put the new palm fronds on. But it doesn't have to be a palm tree. It can be some kind of, it could be a clock tower. It could be anything. I mean, not just the things that I've seen in my experience. So I'd like them to come up with something more appropriate that will fit into the area that we can actually make the findings for, and just have them come back.
I would add to that thought that it seemed, in response to the chair's question, that the developers were at least not unwilling to talk to the church again to see if it could be moved closer to the other buildings. I think one of the problems is it's way out there in the middle of nowhere compared to the church, and it's going to be at least 20 feet higher than the church. So it's definitely going to stand out. And so whatever goes there needs to be as kind to the environment as it can be.
You could explore that too.
Yeah.
So I somewhat disagree with that they said they would go back and talk to the church. I got the opposite impression.
Oh, wow.
That,
Okay.
number one, they didn't want to build it closer to the church because it would be obstructed. The signal would be obstructed by the church, and that the church had selected this particular design.
That may be the case.
That was my understanding. So.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yeah.
If I can just say, I do want to be clear. I'm not. I just respond to you. I'm not. I agree. I think there's a limit to what we can do about the fact that it is a cell phone tower, and I'm not opposed to having a cell phone tower. I understand the need for a cell phone tower. That's all fine, but it is a design issue for me, and what that's going to do.
I'm in total agreement.
Anything else? So the message I think I'm getting is that we'd like to go back to the drawing board on this one and have further discussions about the way this thing's going to be designed and or its location on the property, the church's property. So I guess I'll ask staff what the best way to proceed might be.
So I can take a lead on that response. If there is consensus with the commission that additional work is needed on this, staff would be supportive of a continuation to allow staff additional time to coordinate with the applicant and to respond to the concerns that have been expressed by the commission.
Great, thank you. Do we need a motion to continue?
Yes.
Okay.
I make a motion that,
You already have a motion, and it's seconded.
Oh, so I guess we need to vote on that one? Or I withdraw it?
You can withdraw.
I'll withdraw it. I'll withdraw it. I apologize. So for the record, I'm going to withdraw my motion to approve the exemption and the additional conditional use permit. I guess that was you.
Sure, I'll withdraw my second.
Okay, please.
let's see if I can get this right. I make a motion that we continue this item to the February 7th meeting of the Planning Commission in order for the applicant and staff to find a suitable redesign and bring it back to that meeting.
I will second that.
He has to move it.
Yeah, you're up.
No,
It can still be, yes.
So let the record show that a motion was made by Vice Chair Malakoff, a second by Chair Daly, to continue the project to the February 7th Planning Commission meeting with 4 yeses and 1 no by Commissioner Lowe.
Okay, thank you, everybody. All right, moving on to item 3B, conditional use permit number 22-007.
Hello, good evening. My name is Melody Arechiga, and I'll be presenting this item. This is a request for a cultivation facility, which will be located on the north side of Bankside Drive, which is indicated by the yellow star. Here's just a closer look at the site. There is an existing building as well as some existing improvements. The applicant is proposing to refresh that site and add some additional improvements. And then moving on to a street view, this is the current condition of the building. As part of the proposed project, the applicant is also proposing to refresh the landscaping you see here. So as noted, the site does have some existing improvements. However, the applicant will be adding a total of 15 parking stalls, 1 ADA van accessible stall, a new loading area, and then we'll be retrofitting the trash enclosure to city standard. They will also be adding an ADA path of travel from the public sidewalk, and then adding some landscape diamond planters and refreshing the landscaping within the existing planters, which I will discuss a little bit further in the presentation. So there's an existing L-shaped building on the site. The applicant is proposing no changes, so they'll be maintaining the same footprint, so there will be no additions. Within the site, they're going to have primarily cultivation, which will be comprised of grow rooms, dry rooms, and trim rooms. They will also have restrooms and an employee lounge. So as part of the proposed refreshing of the site, the applicant is proposing a new color scheme, which is a combination of dark and light grays, and then a darker color for the screening material. They will carry that on throughout the building, including the rear of the property. So as noted earlier, they will be adding some new plants, including acacias and palo verdes. Will all assist the applicant in meeting that 50% shading requirement. They will also be adding some shrubs and then a decomposed granite ground cover. With this, staff recommends that the Planning Commission find that the project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to section number 15303, class number 3, new construction or conversion of small structures, and approve conditional use permit number 22-007, subject to the attached conditions of approval and based on the findings contained in the staff report. With this, I conclude my presentation.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions for staff from my fellow commissioners? Please, Commissioner Thompson.
It was. So in the past, the applicant had proposed, and I wasn't the original project planner, so I do apologize. I'm not sure if it was the same applicant, but they had proposed an addition on the site. That entitlement expired. They resubmitted a new conditional use permit application and have the current proposal now with no addition to the building.
Thank you. I was just feeling my age, I guess.
Vice Chair?
As I understand, learning from our last project, which was only a dispensary. So in that case, the wind curtains and condition 3.7 for the filters weren't as important because everything was all packaged.
Mm-hmm.
So here, it's the exact opposite. Everything is open and being processed. So conditions 3.7 and 3.50, which have to do with the air curtains and the filters, here they will be important to me, able to make sure that those odors stay in.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. Commissioners? Anyone?
No.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. At this time, I'll open it up for public comments. Is there anybody from the public who would like to be heard?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Gabriel Lujan, GLA Design Group, 75178 Gerald Ford Drive. After all that conversation about a tower, now I don't know my address, Palm Desert, California. I'm just here to answer any and all questions that you may have. That is very good memory. Yes, we did get a project approved with a 2-story addition. That was prior to COVID. When COVID shut down, somehow there was a meeting or a change in the code, and they changed the parking calculations or the parking requirements, where before anything that was warehouse, it was at 1 per 1,000. But during that change that somehow Robert got through, anything that is added is now 1 to 500, which is double the parking requirements. So our project, as it was approved, was fine. Somehow my clients did not get a notice or did not realize that the CUP expired, and we had to come back with a new design. So they were not very happy, but that was their fault. They should have noticed that their CUP was expiring and get an extension. So they lost about 1,400 square feet of cultivation area, but they still want to move forward. So we're here to answer any and all questions, and I want to thank you ahead of time for everything that you guys do and the knowledgeable questions that you guys bring up.
Thank you.
Commissioner Thompson, any follow-up?
I have no questions. Thank you.
I do have a quick follow-up to that. This applicant, to your knowledge, has this applicant been involved in other projects other than this property?
No, this is the only project that he's brought forward.
Name looks so familiar, so maybe I remember that too. Is that possible?
Yeah, you probably saw it the first time that it came through Elevate Productions.
Okay. Vice Chair? Any questions? Any questions, Commissioners? No.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening and happy holidays.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else who would like to be heard on item 3B? Seeing none, I will close public comment, and I would be happy to entertain a motion.
I move that we find the project is exempt from California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to section number 15303, class number 15, new construction or conversion of small structures, and approved conditional use permit number 22-007, subject to the attached conditions of approval and based on the findings contained in the staff report.
I second.
All right, any further discussion among the commission? No? Hearing none. We shall vote.
Let the record show that a motion was made by Commissioner Thompson, a second by Commissioner Lee, and the motion passes 5-0 to approve the project.
Thank you so much. Okay, moving on to item 4, Commissioners' comments. I'll just take this opportunity to thank my colleagues for another great meeting and a great year. Looking forward to 2024. Yeah. Anybody else want to wish me a Happy New Year?
I'll wish you a happy New Year.
I'll take this opportunity to thank the chair for running a wonderful meeting and the vice chair for being there to stand in for us, staff being here to support us. Everybody have a happy and safe holiday.
So I'm at the risk of sounding like Scrooge. I voted no on the first public hearing item, primarily because I think we're heading down a slippery slope here. We've got an architectural review committee that's empowered to review these projects and make recommendations. That was done because planning commission meetings were taking an untenable amount of time, because when the projects came to the planning commission, they also included the architectural review. So the city, and under the auspices of the planning commission, established the architectural review committee for the sole purpose of determining whether or not these projects were aesthetically pleasing and were appropriate. So I understand that we'd like to have the ability to override the architectural review committee, and I believe we do have that authority, but I think we need to be very judicious about it, or frankly, there's no reason to have an architectural review committee. So that's my comment, and Happy New Year.
I understand what you're saying. I just want to clarify one thing. We're not overriding. They're a recommendation body. They don't make any final decisions except on administrative items, which we don't see. And I think that the CUP and the design review item motions include the design that we have to make those findings. So I think we should use that power judiciously, just like you said, but I think from time to time, sometimes like these things will happen.
My retort to that would be, ever since we discovered that we have that power, we've pretty much tried to exercise it on virtually everything that's come before the Planning Commission. So that's my observation.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, any other commissioners' comments? Okay. Item 5, City Attorney Report.
Nothing to report tonight. Thank you.
You don't want to jump in on this?
Not for Brown Act reasons, no.
Fair enough. All right, and the City Planner Report.
Sure. So just a couple of very small items. We will have continued conversation on wireless telecommunications. We do need to get that in the code. So that will be something that we can schedule for future discussion, and we can get into that in a little bit more depth in terms of what authority the commission has, what you do not have authority over, and just what stealth means. So look forward to agendizing that discussion and continuing that discussion at a later point. Outside of that, happy holidays, happy New Year.
Do you want to introduce Mr. Rocha?
Introduce a new plan.
All right. Our apologies. I had thought that we had him come to a commission meeting, but as I think about it, I guess we didn't. So Manny's been with us for approximately 2 months now. He filled the vacant assistant planner position. we've been very happy to have him, and you'll start to see him a lot more often.
Great. Well, welcome.
Chair, not wishing to be an even more Scrooge, but I just had a thought coming from the public comments earlier, and really a question for staff, I guess. Some of the people commenting did have concerns, and I don't know if we necessarily have their address or contact information. It'd be nice if somebody could at least get back and say, you know, this is the procedure. Yes, you can do this. No, you can't do that. When people ask that from the public, because part of the point of a public meeting is that people can get information. And so if we could follow up with them in some way, that would be great.
What we also may want to do is, in the next staff report, address those comments as well.
Yeah, exactly. That would be good.
Okay. Thank you so much. No, that's quite all right. Thank you so much, everybody. With that, we will adjourn the meeting at 7:06 p.m. Thank you.